anything but starting a TikTok. Anything!
Vincent, can you please?
Anything!
I'm trying to do a TikTok story, god dang.
Do anything but a TikTok. Do an Instagram story.
Now, my first experience with The Twilight Zone wasn't actually on TV. It was actually from school. Now, how we watched it was in the midst of October and Halloween was very close by, and our teacher thought it would be fun to be able to watch something from maybe the olden days or whatever. So she gave us a Twilight Zone episode, but she didn't just have us watch it. No, a week before we ever even watched the actual episode, she had us read like the transcript about what was going to happen. And then we got to see the episode. And as a child, and to this day, it still freaks me out. Considering the fact that you're watching a whole bunch of grown adults losing their minds because of rumor and speculation. Doesn't that sound a bit familiar? It sure does.
Now, in the beginning, I wasn't actually going to do this, but I thought, why not? This platform is open to so many people, but I actually really want to know how many people actually do, in fact, know what fanfiction is and read fanfiction. So please leave a comment.
Now today is a typical day of cleaning up stuff in my mom's in-home daycare and normal cleaning. And here's my brother Vincent. He's helping by putting all the dishes away.
What are you doing?
I will keep recording you. Anyway, he's gonna help me try and clean up this mess inside the kitchen.
I'm sorry, I'm doing what now?
Well, you need to help at least a bit. And I'm gonna be trying to clean up this.
Chores out of her ass.
I'm gonna have to clean up the refrigerator as best as I can. And then try my best to like organize this pantry. Hopefully I can get it done in time. Thanks, Vince.
I hate it when mom just pulls random big chores out of nowhere. It can't just be a normal day that we decide to do the fridge.
To anyone who is like actually like interested to know if I cleaned up the refrigerator, I did, and it took. This is new. I did not. This is new. The rest of it was like interested to know if I cleaned up the pantry. This is what it looks like now.
How much money do you make on DoorDash?
I really just depends on what she wants to do. $1,000,000.
No, I mean like how much per order do you find?
I tried my best. Get off me, you fucking asshole. Get off. Ugh. So annoying. Get off. Scary story, part 1. So a couple years ago, my parents wanted to get away from us, their kids, for a bit of while. So they wanted to go to a club with a bit of their friends and left us again with their kids. One of them was a teenager and the rest of them were probably about the similar age to us at the time. And we thought it was a great opportunity, basically because we wanted to play this game that my parents specifically wouldn't allow us to play because it was a rated R game and it had cursing in it. And we would play with it on the Wii, and we played with it all night long. And we ended up getting scared when we heard knocks on the door. And the thing is, there was no one there on the other side of the door every time we checked. It gets worse. Now, I want you to take into consideration that all of us kids were already kind of like freaking out because of the noises at the door. But it was also past midnight. We were already expecting our parents to get back home. So us freaked out kids waiting for our parents, wondering where the heck they are. And we couldn't get a hold of them because I don't think we owned phones at the time and none of us knew our parents' numbers to begin with. So they finally get back. I think it's like 2 a.m. in the morning, and our dad tells us that they just recently got off the freeway and one of their tires pops off the car. It's an Expedition, by the way, so it's a big truck. And our dad tells us that they just recently got off the freeway and that had they been on the freeway, then the car probably would have crashed. Thanks, Dad. You just gave us nightmares for the whole night. I've been noticing that I've been getting pimples on my nose and my chin, and I really don't want that on my face. So I'm using these different, face washes to help. I really want to know if I'm going to cause more harm to my skin than good. I bought all these different products to get rid of these, pimples and, somewhat acne that was going on my face. But I really want to know if these products are actually going to cause whatever is on my face to get worse. So if you can recommend me anything for combination skin, like a face wash that can be used for both normal to oily skin, that would be great. I hear that CeraVe is, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, is actually really good for your skin and stuff. So I really hope that's true. And I also took the time to actually get a toner that didn't have alcohol in it. Part 2 is going to be my lotion. I only use 3 things to moisturize my face, and they're all from CeraVe. One that's basically a sunscreen for just my forehead and nose, and the other one is just for my cheeks. And this other one is used only for
Hey,
my
Yellow. Hi, Blue. I was just coming here to, do some tasks. Have you seen anything suspicious lately? No can do, Yellow. But maybe there's some tasks over there? Okay, I'll get right on. Yellow's dead. Now, for a while now, I've been told that genetically I'm slowly losing my hair. And it's getting to the point where you're able to almost see my scalp. So by the time I'm 30, I'm probably going to lose the majority of my hair. And I would like to be able to know if there's any way to slow it down, or to stop it, or to try to regrow hair. Because for me, losing what's left of my hair, I would like to be able to keep what I have left. And it just makes me feel secure to have at least this bit of hair on my head. It's not a lot, but I would like to keep it. If there's any suggestions or any products anyone could give me to keep the hair I have on my head, that would be great. That'd be very helpful.
This is what I have to look forward to tomorrow. This is me and my brother Vincent's room. I have to try to clean up all of this by tomorrow. Great.
I just cleaned up the room and now it looks really nice. It doesn't feel as cramped anymore. It feels really spacious now that I got all that other stuff out of here. It's nice to see my stuff again.
Hello.
Hello.
This is my dad. He says hi. Give me those eyes. We're currently just making dinner. Apparently.
Restaurant Stories Part 1. Now, this has to do with a lady that we had to clean off her table and her being extremely upset, and a certain item that she had that went missing somehow. So, the thing about us dining attendants is, especially for a buffet, we have a lot of people coming through, so we have to get a table, cleared, cleaned off with no stuff whatsoever. And one of the ladies ended up leaving her stuff, her kid's jacket, her jacket, and her bag. And we aren't necessarily responsible for what happens to the items. So when we cleared this lady's stuff, we took them to the Lost and Found, like we're supposed to. And when she came back, she was super angry. We were able to get her to the Lost and Found and give her the majority of her stuff. The one thing that wasn't in her stuff was her phone. Click for part 2. Restaurant Stories Part 2. So, as we were, fumbling around trying to find this woman's phone, we're going through each and every one of the rooms. Not even rooms she was even in. And most of my coworkers and stuff were just getting, really frustrated at this point because the lady was not having it. And then she ended up going to the manager, and then we ended up going into the back room where they have the phones and stuff. That's usually where the phones are gonna go because they're an expensive item, so we keep them in this place where it gets locked up. And as it turns out, she was in the gaming aisle. with her kids. And it turns out she left her phone on the game.
So a couple of days ago, I made a few duets about Dungeons and Dragons, and it actually got me a couple followers. So hi guys, welcome. But I wanted to say, thanks to those videos, I've seen a lot of people on my For You page saying, "Hey, I want to get into Dungeons and Dragons, or I want to play Dungeons and Dragons more, but I'm afraid of gatekeepers." I wanted to say, ignore those people who say women shouldn't be playing Dungeons and Dragons. Ignore them. Ignore those people that say the LGBT shouldn't be playing Dungeons and Dragons. Instead, surround yourself with people who are happy to take you, who are happy to let you play with them. Personally, I enjoy having diverse NPCs. Personally, I enjoy having strong female characters, both as player characters and NPCs. So, you know, find more people like that who accept you. And have a good day.
This video is only for small TikTok pages. So if you have 5,000 followers or less, use this sound on your video. And I want everyone on TikTok to go support these small pages.
So there's my mom. She and the rest of my siblings.
Hey, you're both recording!
And my dad's getting like the camera set up. We're gonna be drawing. Okay, so here I am waiting to actually see the blue moon. And it doesn't look blue. I don't know, am I supposed to wait at like a certain time or?
Okay. So here we go.
It's time to get.
Wait, it's my turn.
Oh, these sprinkles are really bad.
Okay, so this video that I've been working on 4 days just got flipping blocked. And I don't know what to do to actually get it unblocked. So tell me if this summary sounds interesting to you. There are 7 deadly sins, each of them a representation of the sin that they are named after. They had 189 siblings that they had to go to war with in order to have the right to also have their name and to survive. And they also have a correlating virtue that's a weapon that is capable of destroying them, that was created by their father Lucifer. And as such, during this entire giant war that happened with all of the siblings, only 7 are able to survive. And Lucifer basically made it a survival game of sorts. All the children have already, basically the survivors have all grown up, and they have to try to find the weapons that are capable of killing them while also trying to kill their father. This is without virtue on weapons. This is going to be a part 1 of a series I'm going to do called Cartoon Pet Peeves. Here we go. This show is called Danny Phantom. I like it and I enjoy it. But season goddamn 3 can freaking just fuck that season. Okay, season 1 and season 2 were fun. They gave us a really beautiful gallery of different ghosts and different powers. Season 2 had my favorite freaking episode of all called Ultimate Enemy. Love the dynamic, love the fact that Danny was getting new powers or figuring out how to work his powers. But season 3 was just a train wreck, in my opinion. Considering the fact they turned my favorite villain in the entire series, made him an idiot for some reason. Why? Danny ends up losing his powers the day that people need him to have his powers, and then freaking I get promised a redemption arc that never fucking happens. Why? This is a warning to anyone who is a bully or someone who is picking on someone. Okay, so for 6 months, there was these 2 dudes who would sit across from me. They would take my eraser, they would take my books, and they would simply, like, toss them on the other side of the freaking room or, like, put them somewhere I couldn't find them. And this went on for way too freaking long. I always let it slide because I'm always just like, I got better things to do with my time and I don't want a suspension. Just this one day, it was towards the end of the year, and I was just going through some stuff at this time, and I was just overly stressed, and one thing led to another. One of the dudes decided to put my books on the floor, and I decided to throw him at a desk. Yeah. So I'd like to tell you guys a little story about my mom's special cupcakes. Let's go. So back in elementary school, my mom decided to make these special cupcakes. What makes them special is what my mom decided to put on top of the cupcakes. So it's Halloween, and my mom decides to make homemade cupcakes. And she decides to put little tombstone erasers on the cupcakes, which is nice, and pretty much it would be pretty fine if she had let me know ahead of time. Because it turns out I didn't know that they were erasers. I assumed it was candy. So as I'm bringing it to class, giving each of my fellow students a cupcake, I didn't realize that they were erasers until I start to take a bite of my cupcake and it tastes chewy. And then I look around and I see 2 kids choking and 2 kids are chewing on the erasers. And just went, oh no. I'm hungry. Episode of Cartoon Pet Peeves. This show is called Teen Titans. It's one of my favorites, and I still watch it to this very day. Like, Slade is like one of my favorite villains. Each one of these characters are beloved in my eyes. Robin was always my favorite. Everything about this show is amazing and awesome. It holds a special place in my heart. But my pet peeve with it, and I think all Teen Titans fans can agree, is the last flipping episode. What was that ending? It wasn't satisfying. It didn't feel like it completed anything. Like, they bring back Tara, they bring back Slade, they, bring this new monster that we've, never seen before. We never know if they've defeated it. And then it just leaves off in a cliffhanger with Beast Boy going off into a glowing light. What was
Now,
that?
I'm not going after school nurses in particular, but I am going to tell about a really bad experience I had going to the freaking nurse's office. So, we're in the midst of swim unit. We're in a freaking middle ground between spring and fall. Not necessarily hot, but not necessarily cold, just a middle ground of uncomfortableness. So we've been doing laps for a while now, and we're really tired. So our PE teacher finally says that we are able to take a break. So we finally, most of us, put our arms on the wall to catch our breath. Suddenly, I get a stinging feeling in my arm and realize that I have just been indirectly stung by a bee. I go to the PE teacher, as you do, and ask, can I please go to the nurse's office? She says, yeah, fine, just go. Mind you, I finally get to the nurse's office, and they send me back because I did not have a nurse's note. I'm dripping wet in a cold freaking room. Don't know if this is true, so please do correct me if I am wrong. Is there indeed a comic in which Batman finds the man who killed his parents and then beats him up every single night? He always leaves him alive, and then the dude ends his own life. So this is gonna be my nuance, November. Marvel makes better cinematic movies. In comparison to DC and Marvel, it's no freaking contest. But when it comes to animated shows, freaking DC takes the gold on that. So DC has had a freaking gallery of gold when it comes to animated features. Specifically things like Batman the Animated Series, Superman the Animated Series, freaking Teen Titans, Justice League Unlimited. It has a freaking long list of that. But with Marvel, there was only 2 shows, and it was before Disney bought them. Spectacular Spider-Man and Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes. That's all that comes to mind. And if you're going to give me a suggestion on a Marvel cartoon, it cannot be an anime. It has to be an actual cartoon made here in the US. That is the only way I'm going to count it. I need to know someone else besides me has actually read this comic. I know there is. Alien vs. Predator. You probably watched the 2004 movie. And just like me, I don't know if we're in agreement, but it was better in the comic. Have you ever intentionally or accidentally hurt your teachers before?
With mine, it was in 5th grade, and I was trying to help my teacher put 2 encyclopedia books away, but the shelf was too high, and I crushed my foot.
I might pull up flexing on these niggas like a rope.
It's Thanksgiving, so what better time to tell a Christmas story? So back a while ago, I used to be a part of the elementary school choir. And my teacher wanted us all to get ready for a performance we were going to do inside of a mall. She told us you have to wear a Christmas decoration and you need to be there at least 15 to 30 minutes early. She put the time on the board and told us that she is going to be having a second school that she is going to be doing this exact performance for. I noticed as soon as we get there, dang it, I don't have a single piece of Christmas decorations on myself. Not a one. But we're in a mall. So my dad suggests that we go into one of the stores and I see a pair of antlers and go, can I get those? I squeeze myself in between these other kids and then it dawns on me. I'm singing for the wrong school. Our performance apparently didn't start until 9:30, not 8:30. It's time for another episode of Cartoon Pet Peeves. Let's begin with Justice League. Now my pet peeve with this show is the fact that the live action one didn't even freaking get a fraction of how good this show was. I don't even have a pet peeve with the show itself. It has good writing, the characters are all freaking likable. This Batman is my favorite Batman of all the medias, comics, other cartoons. Like, yeah, there's variations, but this one freaking stayed with a girl who was gonna die from an aneurysm and waited until it was her time. Yeah, Superman may have had like those ridiculous looking lines on his face during the first season, but they got rid of it in the second season. Yeah, is there some episodes that are more interesting than others? Yes, but I still was invested and still wanted to see more of the story. During the live action one, I didn't even give a crap about the villain. And the heroes were even less interesting. I'd like to thank this person for their comment because I totally forgot that that was a part of a Fact Fiend episode. So I've just been going through their like catalog of different episodes and found some pretty interesting stuff. Now I have another comic that I need to know the title of this comic because it sounds amazing. Apparently Luke Cage was hired by Dr. Doom to go and destroy robots for $200. So instead of paying the man for the job that he just completed, he goes back to Latveria and basically stiffs the man of $200. So instead of taking this as like as a humbling moment to basically not trust a dude named Dr. Doom, he goes to the Fantastic Four, asks for their jet, leaves, goes to Latveria, and then punches Dr. Doom in the face. He does this repeatedly to Dr. Doom until it starts to make a crack in his mask, and so he gives him the $200. Am I grateful for like Christmas deals. It would have cost like almost $300 to get this from my parents. So what I got from my parents was basically a 23andMe. I'm basically giving my mom her DNA. Okay, this is mostly for like anyone who can actually give me an opinion on this because I honestly really want to know like if this thing is good or not. Okay, don't attack me, but I've only watched the Superman animated series once, and it's been a few years. I honestly don't know if it was that memorable. Is it as good as Batman the animated series? Like, I hear that Superman the animated series is good, but is it as good as Batman the animated series? Take into account that Superman was never really my favorite of, like, the Justice League characters, so take my words with a grain of salt. I do remember that there was some interesting stuff that happened in the show, and there are people who love this show with a passion, but is it as good as Batman the animated series? Like, I really don't know. I need to make a video on this because no. Okay, so I have a little bit of an issue with this. And I love Deadpool. Don't get me wrong. I love the Deadpool movies. And I love that they're making it rated R. My problem is first rated R movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Is this a technicality? By technicality, in the cinematic universe, I can see Deadpool maybe being the first Marvel rated R film, but the first Marvel rated R film that came out before the MCU like blew off was Blade. Like, how do people keep forgetting that Blade was a thing? Without this, the Marvel Cinematic Universe wouldn't even exist. Please, if you are in fact a Marvel fan, please give Blade some love. Without him, we wouldn't have
It's simple, really. I just go for a daily dice roll walk.
Have you ever had a teacher that embarrassed you in front of the entire class with no regards to your feelings whatsoever? Mine happened in 2nd grade. My 2nd grade teacher. I can still remember her face to this very freaking day. Okay, so I wasn't the greatest student. If anything, I was a bit slow on certain subjects. I don't know if your schools did this, but we would have to do this thing like a piece of paper that had addition, subtraction, or multiplication. And you had to do that in under 1 minute. The majority of my class were actually really good at this, except for, me. I look at my teacher and I ask for help because I'm not really great at subtraction and I kind of needed help with multiplication. Keep in mind, I'm doing this in front of the entire class. I'm already embarrassed as it is. She replies, "Are you stupid?" Okay, this is going to be targeted at all Dragon Ball fans. If you're interested in Dragon Ball Z, anything Dragon Ball related, please stick around for this video. So recently the arc just ended for the Dragon Ball Super manga, and I really need to know others' opinions about the ending because I'm kind of 50 on it. I'm like, half of me is kind of happy while the other half is like, that could have ended better. The only thing that doesn't lead me to complete and utter anger is the fact that my boy, Vegeta, my favorite character in Dragon Ball Z, period, and Super, is the fact that he got the assist. But the other part of me is kind of pissed that he didn't get the win. Like, come on, Goku always gets the win. Why? And I know I sound like a petty fangirl, but come on.
Alright, so here's an update on Deadpool 3.
First, like to thank this dude for giving me updates on the Deadpool 3 movie. It makes me really excited about what's about to happen. First of all, I am extremely happy that this is going to be rated R. You can get so much blood and gore when you actually have a rated R instead of a PG-13 rating. But I do want to have some reservations because there's at least 3 things in this movie that I really want to happen to make this movie from good to great. Number 1, I want there to be at least a reference to Spider-Man and Deadpool's relationship. Or at least like some funny tidbit that Deadpool really loves Spider-Man. Number 2, they really need to make it like clear, is Deadpool's girlfriend really dead? Because the freaking cliffhanger at the end of like his 2nd movie was kind of left open, but it was still funny. Chimichangas need to be mentioned. It needs to be mentioned. The name's Monique, and I'm about to go and do a typical exercise called walking. But it's kind of like the sun's out, so yeah, no. I'm going to go back inside, and I'm going to go and read a comic instead. Time for another episode of Cartoon Pet Peeves. This is Gargoyles. This is a gem of a show. I would put it up to par with Batman the Animated Series. It is that good. And although it had kind of a decline during the 3rd season, I'd still give like a high recommendations to watch this show. But that doesn't mean that I don't have any issues with it. There are like certain things that I just didn't understand, but I think they're like little nitpicks really. Like, what was David Xanatos' actual plan for the gargoyles? Like, I never like really understood it. Like, you brought these gargoyles back to life and then you're going to kill them? Then we don't get a completed arc with Demona. Like, we basically only get to see her once in season 3, and she doesn't come back for the finale. Okay, besides Griff, these other gargoyles that got left in New York didn't even get to meet other gargoyles. It's the first day of December, so why don't we tell a winter story? And what's in winter? Snow. Snow is in winter. So let me talk about my first experience with snow. You have to understand, me and my sister, we lived in the West Coast the majority of our lives. Our only experience about snow was in the movies. And in the movies, like, you could make snowballs, like, snow was, like, super soft. It looks like something you could just lay around in. So when our grandparents gave, like, our family tickets to go and visit them in Wisconsin, we were so excited because our dad told us that there might be snow up there in Wisconsin. There was snow, just not the kind of snow we were hoping for. So me and my sister attempted to play with this hard freaking rock snow. My sister attempted to make a freaking snowball. It was more of like a rock. Thank God she missed my head. I need to know other people's reactions to this Iron Man comic because it was a trip, man. Like, Tony's suit becomes sentient and falls in love with him. I'm sorry, all subplots in this comic went out the window with that introduction. I'm gonna answer the first two comments. First, let me explain why I like Vegeta as a character. The reason why I like Vegeta as a character is because he's relatable. And seeing his struggles to get what he wants is something that I feel like most people can relate to some degree. And yeah, I get that Vegeta is usually used in the show to basically assess a villain's power, but it doesn't make it any less frustrating. Because with Goku, it feels like he gets his power out of his ass. While with Vegeta, I feel like he earns it from sheer determination alone. And I'm mostly going to ask to anyone who is watching this video to leave a comment about if they've ever met someone in real life who is as happy and as content as Goku. I can tell you a lot of people who are like Vegeta, but I can't name anyone who's like Goku. Time for another episode of Cartoon Pet Peeves. This is Spawn. So the first thing I'm going to say about this cartoon, it's not for kids, and if you're a child, don't watch this. So basically, if this was a movie, it'd be a hard rated R. There's violence, nudity, a whole bunch of really dark themes. So if that's something that you're into, give this thing a shot. It has a lot of it. So yeah, this is not a kiddies cartoon. You get to see a lot of blood and violence. I really like this show's dark imagery. And it's not like every day you get to actually see an animated protagonist basically killing people and actually rooting for it. If this show sounds interesting to you, I would definitely say give it a watch. But go into it knowing that there is no solid conclusion. Yeah, my pet peeve is the fact that it doesn't really have an ending. It has a whole bunch of breadcrumbs that kind of just got left unresolved. I'm going to be talking about an underrated Batman villain. This is Baby Doll. So, as an actress, she couldn't really find much work due to the fact that she can't really age. She used to be a part of a really popular show, but after she was humiliated by another character on the show, she ends up basically by her own devices canceling it. She finds that there's not a lot of people who are willing to hire her. This makes her slowly lose her mind, to the point where she finds that the only time she actually felt joy was when she was the main character of her own show. She decides to kidnap all of her coworkers and basically reenact the birthday that basically humiliated her in the first place, but in reverse this time. And although it's not explicit, the dynamite is near her and her coworkers. It's kind of implied that she was ready to kill herself and her coworkers at the same time. In which Batman finds the man who killed his parents and then beats him up.
Oh, no. Joe Chill did not get off that easy. I think it was either in the Gold or Silver Age of comics where they did this story. And they did an adaptation of Batman the Brave and the Bold as well. Batman tracked the motherfucker down, scared the living shit out of him, beat the man half to death in his own warehouse, and then revealed his identity, and told him that he was the cause of all of it. Joe Chill then ran away to get his gang, to which he told them, Guys, you gotta help me. I killed the Batman's parents when he's a kid, and now he's trying to kill me for it. To which they responded, You killed the Batman's parents? So you're the reason Batman exists? And then they fucking beat him to death. So, no, but the explanation is a little bit crazier.
Okay, but I wasn't that bad in comparison. If you got a report card, it would be shown as a B, C, C, and F. It wasn't that bad. We had some good movies coming through.
Birds of Prey wasn't that bad, and Joker was pretty good, and we also have that Batman movie that's supposed to come out pretty soon. I'd give you a point there, but take into account that we weren't able to break bank on the Justice League. The Justice League. How is that even possible? We still have something that Marvel doesn't have. We have a multiverse. How far behind are we from Marvel? Maybe over a decade. If I had to choose a villain from DC and Marvel, my favorite DC villain would have to be Deathstroke, also known as Slade. And my favorite Marvel villain would have to be Venom. I got Deathstroke from Teen Titans and Venom from Spectacular Spider-Man. If I had to choose a villain from DC and Marvel, my favorite DC villain would have to be Deathstroke, also known as Slade. And my favorite Marvel villain would have to be Venom. I got Deathstroke from Teen Titans and Venom from Spectacular Spider-Man. I think a thing you should know about me is the fact that I actually really adore Spider-Man. I grew up on the freaking Raimi Spider-Man movies, like 1 through 3. Yeah, and I also know that 3 is like really, really bad. But it's kind of like one of those, like, it's so bad that it's entertaining kind of way. But that's not exactly what I'm here to talk about. Maybe I'll bring that up in another video, but I hear there is indeed a Spider-Man comic that is infamous. Like, I've heard of this comic for a while, but I've been hearing that it's so freaking terrible that I never wanted to, like, spend my money on it because I didn't want to waste my cash on something that I was going to throw out a window. But out of morbid curiosity, I decided to look it up on YouTube, and it was just as bad as everyone says it is. Mr. Responsibility himself sold his marriage to bring his aunt back to life. Okay, so for the DC world, I would have to say maybe Lex Luthor or Mr. Freeze. One, for the financial stability and the fact that he would probably have some really cool gadgets and stuff, and it would just be freaking cool to play with that. And Mr. Freeze because he would have like that emotional support, and the fact that if I ever got hurt, I would know that he'd be devoted to taking care of me. But Marvel's a little bit more tricky because I can't really think of like an actual villain that I would be okay dating with. I think maybe Doctor Doom would be an interesting date. I'm not really sure because he owns an entire country and that would be fascinating. Maybe Taskmaster too? Like, he'd have some really interesting moves. I can't think of anything. Now I finally understand why I don't understand this comic book. Okay, so I own Final Crisis, but I don't have Crisis on Infinite Earths, and I don't have Infinite Crisis. So I was just confused. To anyone who is watching this, I am doing a challenge. Choose 3 heroes from the DC universe to go up against Thanos. And to make it a little bit harder, it can't be Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, or The Flash, for obvious reasons. Also, Thanos is going to have the Infinity Gauntlet. And to make it a little bit harder, try to choose somebody who does not already have godlike abilities, just to make it a little bit more interesting. Thanos will be transported into the DC universe, so that might level the playing field somewhat. And here are my choices of my 3 that I would choose to go up against Thanos with the Infinity Gauntlet. Here are my choices. Nightwing, Hal Jordan's Green Lantern, and Martian Manhunter. If you think I'm wrong, please give me your suggestions on what 3 you would choose. I love Teen Titans. I really do. So this comic was one that I got specifically to understand more of like Teen Titans lore. To people who are like huge fans of Teen Titans, then you already know who I am going to be talking about because in the Judas Contract, she's kind of flippin' important. The person I'm about to talk about is named Tara from the Teen Titans cartoon show and the Teen Titans Judas Contract comic. In cartoon Tara, you understand that she's being manipulated and literally controlled so you can understand her. Yeah, you're not gonna find any nuance in like the original Tara, like none. How is it that the relationship between Slade and Tara in the cartoon show is less creepy than in the comics? If you don't know what I'm talking about, look it up.
I actually have a lot more to say about this comic, so there's gonna be a part 3 heroes from the DC universe to go up against Thanos.
You see, that's just fucking mean. You give the man the fucking Infinity Gauntlet, his ultimate weapon, and then you put him in a universe where he can't even use it! Top of my list. Lobo. Absolutely. Has to be. Man's fought Superman to a standstill, and anybody who can kick the shit out of Santa Claus can kick the shit out of Thanos. Number 2, I'm going with Barry Allen. But Panda, he's just a normal person who can run really fast. Barry Allen outran death himself. He moves faster than time. I think he can handle the Red Hulk after his failed attempt to get into the Blue Man group. You see, just so I could see the pseudopsychology of the two characters battling against each other, I want to say Superboy Prime, but you said no god-tier characters, so fuck! I got it. This one's a deep cut. Deathstroke's son, Jericho. Not the one from Titans, I'm talking actual Jericho. Thanos is too obsessed with manners, he'd look him in the eyes and he'd be fucked. It's my opinion, let me know yours.
I'm sorry, sir. Did I offend you? I'm just trying to get a better understanding in the media that I like. And sometimes I have questions. But I'm not going to stop making videos. So goodbye. Okay, so I just had this idea. What if Justice Lord Superman met Injustice Superman? Like, what would their conversation be? Because we both see them as bad, but how would they look at each other? Like, I feel that Injustice Superman just, like, has no morality whatsoever left. Well, I still feel that Justice Lord Superman's it's kind of hard because at the end of Justice League, when he basically was going to kill Flash, there's still a part of me that wondering if he'd actually do it. Because we already know definitively that Injustice Superman would in fact kill people. If Shazam is a good example to bring up. If you're interested in me like making a skit, like comment on this video saying yes, I'd love to see that. Please give me your answer. Okay, so let's talk about the Spider-Man Raimi movies. Like, in comparison to, like, the comic book movies that we have now, the Raimi movies probably wouldn't stand a chance, but they have their own unique charm that I really think that other comic book movies should take notes on. Like, the fact that in the Raimi movies, it's more of, like, a fun experience, and the fact that nothing in the movie is something that I take seriously. And I think that holds a special charm to it. Spider-Man 1 had, like, the funniest dialogue that was just, I don't think was meant to be funny, but was hilarious. Spider-Man 2 had my favorite scene out of all of the freaking Spider-Man movies. Like, the scene where he is literally holding a train with his webs attached to buildings. And even the bad Spider-Man 3 gave us Peter Parker emo dance. Okay, so this was just like a tangent thought when I was thinking of the Justice League, and I decided to watch a few clips on YouTube, and then suddenly, this idea popped into my head. What if Justice Lord Superman met Injustice Superman? And what would their interaction be? Because I honestly think that Injustice Superman would be extremely jealous of Justice Lord Superman. Well, you see, Lex Luthor kind of became president, and then I just decided that I was just done with everything that was going on with the world. So, after I lasered him in the face, me and my fellow Justice Leaguers decided to basically take over the world. I was drugged by the Joker into killing Lois Lane and my unborn son. And as soon as I took revenge for the death that he caused, I ended up losing my best friend as well. Okay, so a thing in like Teen Titans is the fact that Robin is my favorite character. And in the Judas Contract, it really gives him a moment to shine. Because he has no powers, and yet he was able to escape Deathstroke. Okay, so I know there are probably worse fathers in the comic book universe. I don't necessarily know who those characters are, but I think Slade Wilson should definitely be at least in the top 10 of worst comic book fathers. Like, let's take Slade's firstborn, shall we? Grant ends up dead because he wants to end up being his father, and sadly fails. Jericho, an innocent kid, ended up getting his throat slit because his dad did not want to give up a freaking client.
And do I even want to go in the list of what happens to his daughter? Oh my god. Well, she ends up getting freaking drugged by her own dad to make sure she stays loyal. She ends up stabbing her eye to look like her father, and then her father puts kryptonite in it. Please, if you think there is a father that is worse than Deathstroke, please leave it in the comments. I would like to hear what Blade was my first rated R movie that I had ever watched. And now that I am older, and I'm not seeing it from a... How old was I when I saw this? Let's just say I'm like maybe about 10 years old at the time. I found this movie to be freaking enjoyable as hell. And now that I am older, I do see that it does have its flaws. The CG, it does not hold. Or at least in some areas, it's extremely noticeable. The ending fight scene was amusing, but it didn't feel like a final boss. I felt that the intro club scene was just perfection. The best visual that I can give to how I feel about this movie is when Blade gives a fist pump for when he ended up putting a blade through this dude's hand. Yeah, it's cool and dorky. So it's time for another episode of Cartoon Pet Peeves. And today we're going to be talking about Transformers Prime. Now, I will admit it took me a while to get used to the style. Not for the main characters, like these ones here. It was mostly the human characters where it took me time to adjust to how they look. But I would say that's more of a creative decision, because I can honestly understand why they needed to use this style, because it was well worth it. The fighting scenes are freaking amazing. The rivalry between Optimus Prime and Megatron is fleshed out. You actually legit feel like they've had a relationship for millennia. I would say watch this show, but I'm going to give you my grievances. My pet peeve is the fact that Starscream and Breakdown were not fully utilized. Breakdown dies horrifically, and Starscream becomes basically an abused puppy. Okay, this new Batman movie is giving me some hope for what, did not get to happen in Batman v Superman. I really hope that when Batman does in fact meet Superman, that the relationship between those two is actually developed. I really hope that whoever is going to be writing the next meetup between Batman and Superman, that the relationship in and of itself is something that was fleshed out, and it's not, here's my grievances. Is the fact that Batman being afraid of Superman's power isn't that far-fetched. Seriously, the man came up with contingency plans for everyone in the Justice League, not just Superman. But the thing that I want to have emulated is that they have trust in each other. Freaking, in one of the movies, Superman gives Batman kryptonite. Now, I want you to take into account that these two characters were introduced to me not via the comics, but by the cartoons. So I actually do not know how powerful both of these characters are in the comic book universe. My challenge is, which one is more stronger from their comic book feats? Charles Xavier or Martian Manhunter? And I want to ask this as basically being not for their physical prowess, but what they can do specifically with their minds. Now, I know Martian Manhunter is very powerful, considering the fact that a bit of people chose him to go up against Thanos. But I really want to know Charles Xavier's feats. I'm only basing his power off of the cartoon version and not the comic book version. And I would really like to know if he would stand a chance against Martian Manhunter at all. Okay, so Ultimate Spider-Man. I really wanted to like the show. I really freaking did. I just felt so, disappointed in certain areas that I felt could have been developed more. The relationships and the stories themselves felt rushed. No one felt like a complete character. They kind of just felt like caricatures. There was some episodes that are supposed to give an emotional response, and yet I didn't feel anything. And Spider-Man was voiced by freaking Drake from Drake and Josh, and that just killed my soul. I had such high hopes when this cartoon was announced, because I heard that the Ultimate Spider-Man comics were like really good and serious and stuff. And I didn't expect it to go like the super serious route. I just expected to have decent writing.
What's something from your childhood that you loved, but no one else remembers?
2 words. Generator Rex. No one ever talks about it. It had a crossover with Ben 10. And because it happened in the CN Real era. Okay, so originally I didn't know that this was a thing. But Santa Claus existing in the Marvel Universe. And him having basically a story with a lot of other characters. But the one that I'm going to go into is the fact that Deadpool was hired by a bunch of children to basically murk Santa. When you think comics can't get any more bizarre. So apparently, Deadpool was hired by a bunch of kids that got stiffed on presents on Christmas. And because of that, the kids all over freaking bundled up together, got money to pay Deadpool. So they end up so Deadpool goes over to the North Pole trying to find Santa Claus. And he does. But Deadpool cannot kill freaking Santa Claus. You just can't. Turns out it was an evil elf, so Deadpool kills him and saves Christmas. X-Men are sort of the movies that I feel were kind of necessary to give us like the stepping stone to making superhero movies cool. And I feel like X-Men 1 and X-Men 2 are pretty fun. Are they flawed as hell? Yes, but I would say they're fun. I think X-Men 3, I think, is the only movie that I legit had a problem with. Now, it wasn't like them finding a cure for like the mutant powers. That storyline didn't bother me as much. They tried to do the whole thing with Jean having the Phoenix Force, but at the time, I didn't know the Phoenix Force was a thing, so I didn't even know what the heck was happening with Jean. They didn't make that clear. And then Wolverine has to kill her, and I'm just left going, what? Okay, as I'm recording this, the King Kong vs. Godzilla movie hasn't come out yet, so I could be dead wrong. So keep that in mind. Godzilla vs. King Kong, and my thoughts before the movie comes out. Now, I don't know how the hell King Kong is going to be able to take Godzilla down. Granted that I already know that King Kong beat Godzilla once back in like the movies way back when. But Godzilla has plasma blasts, skin thicker than a fucking alligator, and also has one of the most thickest thighs I have ever seen. And we know that King Kong is really good at getting sticks and stabbing things and using his bare hands to snap a neck in half. But how the heck is he gonna beat the King of Monsters? Like, really? To anyone who's watching this, I want you to tell me how you discovered the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Was it from a movie? Was it from a show? Was it from maybe the comic? I would love to hear how you got into the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Now, I would like to tell you how I got into the TMNT fandom. So, as a wee child, I and my sister on Saturdays would watch 4Kids. Every Saturday, we would put 4Kids on, and I would just watch the heck out of the show. Even though sometimes I would kind of have to watch it out of order. Freaking love me, the original live-action TMNT movie. And yes, I know that there are sequels to the live-action movies, but I don't go into those. Freaking theme song always got me ready for Saturdays. Didn't know that there was comics. I'm gonna have to go get those. I'm really excited for She-Hulk. And probably not for the reason you think. Because there are certain things that I would find interesting. Specifically the fact that she owns a law firm specifically for all the superhero shenanigan things that happen in the Marvel Universe. And there's this one particular episode I really want to exist. Literally, Spider-Man ends up getting a dude wants to help Spider-Man sue that newspaper company that has been smearing his name for years.
That's right, Spider-Man sues J. Jonah Jameson. That premise alone sounds freaking amazing. And I'm already gonna give a spoiler about it, but we all know that Peter Parker's the one who takes the pictures of Spider-Man. Take a guess how this ends. I am going to be talking about one of the most powerful mutants in the freaking Marvel universe that even right now I'm shocked exists. I'll give you a hint. It's not Jean Grey, and it's no one from the X-Men roster. I'm talking the man, the myth, the legend, Santa Claus. Man single-handedly took out the whole Brotherhood of Evil by turning them into toys. Then basically transported the entire X-Men team and then erased our memories of the events. I don't know about you, but that sounds pretty impressive. Santa Claus. At first I thought it would be a bit far-fetched to assume that a man who basically gets into people's houses, gives everyone presents in one night, would be more of something that requires magic. I'd like to hear everyone else's opinions on Santa Claus from the Marvel Universe. I really did not want this to be true. I was hoping that this was a joke of some sort. Then I look it up. No. Really? We can't give Spider-Man a break for once? Excuse the hair, but I really want to make this video before it leaves my head. Why does Batman in Justice League and in Batman Beyond, he has such a miserable looking life? When I watched, I didn't watch Batman Beyond until after I watched Justice League. And the epilogue episode of Justice League, broke me. Seeing Batman being basically old and decrepit, and basically his son going around and finding the people who knew his father. And then when you get to Amanda Waller and she tells you the story of how Batman basically stayed with a girl who was going to die. And that scene always breaks my heart. Because of I end up feeling guilty for Batman not being able to have an actual life.
I'm going to do 3 DC villains versus your 3 Marvel heroes.
Okay, so for my DC villains, I am choosing Lex Luthor, Deathstroke, and Gorilla Grodd. And for my Marvel heroes, I'm going with Spider-Man, Luke Cage, and Doctor Strange. So for Doctor Strange, I would have him go up against Gorilla Grodd because I don't know how powerful Gorilla Grodd's psychic powers are, and I don't know how awesome Doctor Strange magic is, so I'd love to see them go toe-to-toe. I would have Spider-Man go up against Deathstroke because of both of their physical abilities, and I would have Luke Cage go up against Lex Luthor because Lex Luthor has gone up against the Man of Steel, a man who in the DC universe who has indestructible skin too, so he has to have something up his sleeve. If you think that I'm wrong, please give me your opinion. So I'm going to issue another challenge. Darkseid with his son Calabac and Granny Goodness against 3 Marvel heroes. No parademons. This time I am allowing you to use 1 God tier Marvel character. To make it a bit more fun for myself, I want you guys to choose 2 heroes that are only street level. I will allow weapons. Special geared weapons of any sort, but they have to be not a god level item. So I guess I should go into my 3 that I would choose in this fight against Darkseid. So for my god level, I would go with Jean Grey with the Phoenix Force. For one of my Street Fighters, I'm going to go with Luke Cage. And for my second Street Fighter, I'm going to go with Iron Fist. If you think I'm wrong, I'd love to hear your guys' suggestion. Okay, so let me just talk about one of this really pathetic villain for a second. And that's saying a lot considering there are some pathetic villains out there. If you have yours, please leave it in the suggestion. But here's mine. Scorpion from the Spider-Man comics. This dude is just Bad Luck Brian, I swear. So J. Jonah Jameson basically hired this dude to figure out how Peter Parker was able to get pictures of Spider-Man. And such, when he ended up getting turned into Scorpion, ended up getting his mind to be that of a scorpion. That in itself is kind of sad. And then he ends up, like, basically he can't take the suit off, or he'll die if he takes the suit off. And also there was this one moment where Dr. Octopus gets switched in with Spider-Man's body and his jaw ends up being punched out.
Classic. It just works. It really just works. This is the new Spider-Man suit.
A part of me as like a freaking Spider-Man fan is going like, why? Or you done fucked up. But I at least want to give these people the benefit of the doubt that it wasn't just like some sort of like last minute cash grab. A part of me wants to believe that these like artists who probably had to work who knows how long on this design because they were told by some execs that they need a new look for Spider-Man to sell some comics. And one of the ways to get your comic noticed is to basically change up the freaking character design. I believe this has happened several times before, if anyone remembers like the first X-Men costumes. But I think they should have kept some remnants of the old, because gray, really? Okay, in my like last video of like Godzilla versus King Kong, I want you to know that I'm not like trying to bash on King Kong or anything. It's just me trying to figure out how they're gonna give King Kong a fighting chance. Because as for like physical abilities and stuff, there was some stuff that had to happen for King Kong to win in the older movies. If you don't know, like in the old like Godzilla versus King Kong movie back in like, I don't even remember when, Godzilla had to go up against King Kong who had like electric powers. And as such, he was able to get that electricity power to help him win the fight against Godzilla. Are they gonna have to like get him to a power plant where he's gonna have to be like shocked with a lot of energy to go up against Godzilla's freaking plasma blast?
Book history is just like a random alien dude.
So the basics of what this dude is saying is that Superman basically just is a random dude who just so happened to get powers because he was on Earth. I say that Earth, I think, has a sort of natural limitation on us to not have powers. Let me explain. Just like on Krypton, Krypton has a red sun, and the gravity on the planet itself actually limits Superman's powers, making him the equivalent of an Earthling. Okay, so the evidence that I'm using this is when Batman went to a completely different planet and actually developed similar powers to Superman. I don't remember what conditions the planet had, but it kind of almost proves my theory. If you have any other evidence, I'd love to hear it.